visited a school which is called the American School, but you wouldn't know it was a school were it not for the big sign outside, which is basically the only thing that remains of the school. It says American School of Gaza. Now you can't be, when you visit that site, you cannot be struck but by complete irony that American money is being donated to Israel, who then buy weapons that have been designed by in American universities, by scholars, and then are being used, dropped on Palestinians to destroy American schools. It's incredible. I visited that school when I was on the US Viva Palestina convoy in July, and everyone was just like, this is, the irony was not lost upon that delegation of 200 people, I can assure you. And, I mean, apart from obviously the devastation physically in terms of all these infrastructure being systematically destroyed in all aspects, health, education, democracy, it's really the human costs which stand out the most, and as I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, young people in Gaza have suffered a lot, and 2 days isn't a very long time to spend in a place, especially when you're completely exhausted from such a long, difficult journey. But it's long enough to speak to people and get an insight into just how intolerable and difficult life in Gaza really is. We had the opportunity to meet 3 students from the University College of Applied Sciences, which is where people study from about 16 to 20. It's like a pre-university education institution. It's linked to the Islamic University of Gaza, and we had the opportunity to meet with academics and students and discuss what the situation for education in Gaza is like, and in what ways we can support Palestinians' right to education, and what kind of messages they wanted us to bring home. And the most sort of poignant moment of that meeting was when 3 students came along who had been very seriously affected by the war. The first student was on crutches, and he revealed, underneath his trousers, that he actually had lost half of his legs from the knee down and had to wear prosthetic limbs. The second student was in a wheelchair. They lost both of their legs completely and one of their arms. And the third student, called Yusuf, he was studying in his final year of civil engineering when the war began. And he said, as a result of the war, he lost his vision and was forced to end his studies in the final year of his degree because he couldn't draw anymore. But he's now reapplied to do something else, and he's in the first year of a degree in Islamic studies. And I think that's really something you completely take from Gaza, is that it doesn't matter to some extent it doesn't matter how difficult things get, and how much, even when you lose your vision and you've lost 3 years of your life in doing a degree, it's just, the mentality isn't to give up at all. There's just utter determination to rebuild their lives, their society, and to build, to play their part in building a peaceful world, basically. And I think that's one thing that really chimes through everyone you meet in Gaza. Is they want peace, and that starts, with education. It's the core of the resistance. The Palestinians are one of the most educated people in the whole world per person. There's no other society that has more PhDs. It's absolutely incredible, it really is. And that is just something that you really get a sense of when you're there. You're speaking to every family, they've got a doctor in it or something, and it's just, incredible that these 3 students, 1 year on, the trauma that they must have suffered in this war. Obviously, they have their own personal tragedy, but members of their family have died. Their friends and their colleagues. Half of their university was destroyed, and still they continue to carry on and continue to study to improve their lives and the whole society that they live in. On the sort of subject of the right to education, one of my good friends in Britain is called Khaled al-Adala. I don't know if anyone is aware of his story, but when about 3 summers ago, just before the siege started, Khaled returned home to see his family, because he was studying in Britain, Bradford University. He's originally from Gaza. So he returned home over the summer to see his family and actually get married as well. We found in September that Israel wouldn't allow him to leave and return to his third year of study. 6 months later, after a huge campaign in which lots of students from Britain were involved in actually, he was allowed to leave Gaza to return to his studies. And that's just, another way in which education in Gaza is, the right to education in Gaza is systematically denied. Obviously, the siege means freedom of movement is very, very, very difficult indeed. It's very difficult to get visas to come out, and very few, thousands of students lose scholarships in prestigious universities and their places, and obviously that's a very important right. The right to study wherever you choose is a right. Now Khaled is the first ever Palestinian to basically lead a students' union. He is effectively the president of Bradford University, although they call it the secretary-treasurer. He's the lead select officer there, and he's using his office to raise the flag of Palestine and the banner of peace and justice wherever he goes, which is absolutely brilliant. And he's actually a colleague of mine in the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. He's the joint student officer with me. Obviously his family is still in Gaza. He's had a baby with his wife since he returned home. His family have never seen their grandchild. But we had the opportunity when we were, in the short time we were in Gaza, to go and meet with Khaled's family. We were only there for effectively one night. But they invited us round for dinner, which was really very generous and kind, because obviously food is in such short supply in Gaza. It was absolutely very humbling that they provided us with a meal. And we discussed loads of things, because Khaled's dad is one of the deans of the Islamic University of Gaza, and his mum is a school teacher. So we had like a very good discussion about what it was like during the war, and it gives a really real sense of if you're a primary school head teacher, which is what Khaled's mum is, children just completely devastated because their father or their mothers died and having to come to school. It's just obviously school education did cease during the war, but people came together to support each other. And she was just saying, a year on, obviously, the lack of counselling support in Gaza is another problem. People just completely traumatised, and young people in particular. But basically, when we went, obviously it was a lovely evening, but I sad to say that it ended in a bit of an argument between Khaled's mum and dad, because Khaled's dad's view was that if you're going to come to Gaza, then you absolutely have to go and see the tunnels, because it's such a vital part of Palestinian economy and society. It's the means, as I said at the beginning, it's the way in which the Palestinians don't starve to death and have the basic necessities they do to reproduce life. Khaled's mom was of the view that this is a very dangerous thing to do in normal circumstances, but particularly on this day, because the afternoon of the day we were there, Israel had F-16s had flown over and dropped thousands of leaflets which said, "Don't go near the tunnels, we're going to bomb them tonight." So it was a bit of a dangerous thing to do, to go to the tunnels. But Khaled's dad won that argument, and we ended up going at about 10:30. So we went to tunnels which are in Rafah city by the border, and it's absolutely remarkable and very privileged to have gone and witnessed what these are all about. And it's basically a magical well that sinks 40 feet down. And the first thing you kind of think is, this is really obscene. The border is literally a mile away, where all goods should be able to come through, but they're not allowed. And you just think, in the 21st century, you've got people forced to go underground for like 12 hours a day, risking their lives, and 3 Palestinians die each week just from tunnel collapses, never mind the ones that are bombed. It's just absolutely just appalling, and that's the first thing that strikes you.